Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, Crazed here, and welcome to my top 10 games of 2012. So, before we hop right into it, let's give out a few honorable mentions to the games of 2012 that, while I enjoyed them, necessarily did not get the attention they deserved or just weren't able to get onto my list. So, number 1 is Guild Wars 2, number 2 is PlanetSide 2, and number 3 is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. The reason I say number 1 and number 2 are honorable mentions and not on the list is merely because I have not had the time to play them. I know for a fact they are very good games. I love PlanetSide 2, and I'm very interested in Guild Wars 2. I shelled out $40 for each of them. However, with that said, I just have not had the time to play them, and I feel that with that lack of experience and the lack of knowledge I have with that game, it would not be fair to give it a spot on the list simply because I am not all that familiar with its mechanics, and the time I have had to play with it, I have not played much of the game. However, with that said, for Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was on my number 10 for the list until yesterday. And the reason I say that is it got cut out at the very last second by my number 10 game, and I still feel it deserves a honorable mention, mostly because it was much better than I expected it to be. They rejuvenated the single-player series, and it actually looks like they're taking a few steps forward to actually make the single-player worthwhile for a purchase, instead of you just shelling out $60 for a often broken multiplayer and a worthless single-player. Now, you're actually getting a single-player that's worthwhile, albeit a little bit short, however well-written. That said, though, let's move on to the actual games of 2012 that were my favorite. So number 10, Dota 2. Yeah, that's right. Dota 2 just very quickly beat out Call of Duty Black Ops 2 at the absolutely last second. And the reason I say that is, if I had been released this list earlier, Dota 2 would not have been on the list. However, I downloaded it recently, started playing it, and oh my god, I have had so much fun with it, you just wouldn't believe it. I love this game, and I'm so happy to see that Ice Cool, or whoever... I say his name like I know his name. Whoever, Valve hired to actually help them with Dota 2. I'm so happy that that guy actually got to work on this game, and he actually created a game that was fantastic. It lives up to its predecessor of Dota 1, even though there were hundreds of variants of it, but the variant he created, it lives up to it. It is fun, it looks good, it's none of the bullshit that I often so much, I would say, despise about League of Legends, where it's like, you just get into the game, you do what you want, you have your heroes available to you, and oh my god, there are a ton of heroes, hundreds of them. It's very open to casual players at the beginning, but of course there's that learning curve that comes with all MOBA players. I enjoy the game. I find the heroes to be far more interesting than any of the ones in League of Legends. Hell, the characters I've played are, let's see, I have played a Warlock, who makes everything explode. I played a two-headed dragon named Jakiro, who makes everything explode. And I played a Necrolite, who does not make anything explode. He does, however, heal everyone. So that's kind of cool. Moving on to my next game of 2012, however, though. Number 9, Chivalry Medieval Warfare. So, this game kind of got on a little bit as a placeholder. I really had nothing else to put here for number 9, but I still felt Chivalry deserved a place somewhere on the list. I got this game gifted to me come Christmas, and I've been playing bits of it here and there, and I rather do enjoy it. It is the sequel to Chivalry, which was a mod release for Half-Life 1, I believe, or I could be wrong, could have been Half-Life 2, don't quote me on it. However, I love the game solely for its combat. The combat is just a joy. It is visceral, it is fast, it is just nothing about it. It's just no holds barred. Complete blood and violence across the board. It doesn't hold back, and I love that game for it. It'll let you have up to 64 players in a single server, and objective-based gameplay or your normal team deathmatch gameplay. It is fantastic. It just does not hold back. It is violent, gritty, blood-filled. The combat is visceral, fun, action-packed. It is really the best melee combat that we have seen for 2012, with the exception of a few ones along the way. Number 8, Assassin's Creed 3. So, I threw Assassin's Creed 3 in here because I do believe it belonged on the list. However, there were a few mishaps along the way that I believe held it down from getting up higher. So with that said, Assassin's Creed 3 deserves to be on the list because of a few things it does right. It gets held back by a few things it does wrong. I'm not sure why I kind of had a little bit of a pause there, but you get what I mean. For example, it does the combat system right and wrong. The combat system is fast, visceral, and fun, however, it's far too easy. It suffers from the same ailment that Assassin's Creed has always suffered from. The combat is just too easy. However, it also does a few things right, like the naval combat. The naval combat in this game is stellar. It is fantastic. You have no idea. It is a great naval combat all around. In fact, it could even have this game with that naval combat. If I wish they would flesh it out a little bit more and maybe release a pirate game, because it's there. They could totally do it. Ubisoft could do it. They actually could pull it out of their ass at the last second and actually make a game with naval combat, revolving solely around naval combat. I mean, hell, that Pirates of the Caribbean game we were always expecting got cancelled. Why not make that? Ubisoft could do it with the naval combat that they have in Assassin's Creed 3. It is simply that good. Another few things I'd like to talk about is the characters of Assassin's Creed 3 were, for the most part, fairly good. Connor, however, is a little bit boring here and there. In fact, he's one of the most boring assassins we've ever had. However, you kind of get to see him grow, and I feel like that's interesting, because when he starts off, he's this really, like, mouthy little kid who basically believes he's the be-all, end-all, almost, really. And he's just arrogant, and he wants to go into the war and fight the enemy so they don't take his land. But when he starts to meet Achilles, who is, in my opinion, the best character of the game, Achilles, you kind of get to see him grow into someone who's a little bit more mature and wise, and that's kind of neat. However, it's just all the other things that the game does wrong here and there, like the occasional glitches. Sometimes the story just felt like the pacing just went completely off. Sometimes the AI would just bug out and be stupid as hell. Pointless stealth quests here and there. Yeah, regardless, because of that, the game gets held back, but it was still good enough to be on the list. I enjoyed my time with it. However, moving on to number 7. Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 was fun, grody, and just all around did not hold back like Chivalry. There was violence all over the place. Absolute ridiculous comical violence, and that is the best part about Borderlands. There was just grody Family Guy toilet humor everywhere, and I loved it for that. It's just a game solely about having fun, and that is what we do as gamers. This is why we game. We want to have fun. Borderlands understands that, and with Borderlands 2, they provided that. You get to play with 3 of your friends, go into a 4-player co-op session, kill everything, and just move on with your day. It is a fantastic game, and I enjoy it to the end of my days. However, with that said, the reason it gets held back a little bit, and I mean gets held back a little bit, is that it feels more like Borderlands 1.5 than it does Borderlands 2. And the reason I say that is because it does not, nowhere in the game does it feel like an evolution. It's more of a revolution of the game and what it does and its playstyle and all that, but it is not an evolution, it is a revolution. Get that very, very clear. It is not a evolution of the game. It's more of a, this is the gradual progression, but nothing new happened. There were no new massive changes, and I feel that kind of held it back just a little bit. However, don't let that dissuade you, because it was a very fantastic game. However, moving on to number 6. DayZ. Now, you guys know me. I've dumped thousands of hours into DayZ at this point. I think like 3 months ago I was sitting at somewhere around 800 hours. I played DayZ every single day. Every single day. And I love the game. You guys know why I love the game. This broken zombie mod has provided me with some more adrenaline pumping minutes of gameplay that I have never found anywhere else. Understand that very, very clearly. That is the truth. I have never found as much adrenaline pumping gameplay in any other game as I have in DayZ. And the reason for that is because there's always that fear. The fear that if you fuck up and make one little mistake, just one little mistake is all you need to lose everything you worked hard for. And that is what makes the game terrifying and scary and fun and immersive. However, the reason it doesn't get higher up on the list is because it's in alpha. I can't put it higher up on the list. I'd be a joke. It doesn't get up higher on the list simply because it's an alpha and there are so many things broken. So many things. Zombies don't care about walls. They use the pathfinding of boars. They will hit you through inanimate objects that they shouldn't be able to. They will walk through walls, buildings, hit you through walls. They will see you at absurd distances. They will sprint to you like Usain Bolt, of all things. Yeah, there are things that need to be fixed. The bases don't work. There's still a sizable amount of hacking, although I haven't really seen much of it, so it seems to be under control by now. They all went to War Z, ha 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 ha. Anyhow, with that said though, even with all the things that are wrong with this game, the absurd load times being one of them, I still love this game. It is a fantastic game, and it needs to be fixed in many, many, many different areas before it can be put higher up on this list. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to number 5. So number 5, my number 5 favorite game of 2012 was Halo 4. Now, I am a massive Halo fan from back in the day. I played a lot of Halo. I was introduced to it. I actually remember the day very clearly. I was playing with my brother. I was sitting down with him, we were playing some Halo Combat Evolved, and he had the Xbox, you know. The Xbox back in the day was, for me, a child, a really cool thing. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. So we started playing some Halo, and then ever since then, I think it was like a week afterwards, I wanted an Xbox so I could go play Halo, and my mother comes home one day with an Xbox. Actually, no, I remember it. I was sitting at my grandmother's in her loft, and I was just sitting there talking with her, visiting with her, because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And then all of a sudden, my mother shows up, carrying an Xbox, and there was Halo Combat Evolved right on top of it. And ever since then, I've been a fan of Halo, since Halo Combat Evolved, to Halo 2, to Halo 3, to Halo 3 ODSD, which unfortunately was not that good, to Halo Reach, which needed a little bit of work. However, then Halo 4 comes along. Halo 4 of all games. And funnily enough, this game, I feel, has almost rejuvenated the franchise. It is a fantastic reboot to the series. I can't wait for the next installment of this Forerunner saga. I can't wait. I really want to see where it goes. Master Chief, with Cortana, with the Didact, with the Prometheans. I want to see where it goes. I really, genuinely do. I feel this game was fantastic. It needed a bit of a better soundtrack because, you know, of course, the main guy who did it is no longer there. However, the guy who took up the place behind him still did a stellar job, and it still felt like it belonged in a Halo game. The combat was good. The graphics, they pushed the console to the absolute max, and there never once did it feel like it affected it in an adverse manner. It ran flawlessly. The story was great, and all around across the board it was just a fun time. However, the reason it doesn't get higher up on the list is because, let alone, the single player was only 4 hours long. Actually, no, that's not true. I beat the single player in 3 hours and 57 minutes. I remember it very clearly. So yes, of course, 4 hours, but I wanted to be specific. And I feel it's just not so much I feel that as we get further on into the list, you guys have to realize it is not so much that the game's being held back by its own flaws, it is because there are other better games ahead of it that are getting a higher spot, especially on this list. Halo 4, do not let the fact that it is number 5 dissuade you. it is still a great game, and if you own an Xbox 360, you would be a fool, an absolute idiot to not buy this game. It is a great game with great multiplayer and with a fantastic customer support and how they actually want to provide for the customer and make them feel like their purchase was worthwhile. Spartan Ops, they're giving away free episodes. When it released, they gave away free episodes, which consisted of 5 chapters every single week. That's a good hour and a half of extra gameplay added on for you to play with a friend. It's great. It adds to the story even. Please, if you own an Xbox 360, you owe it to yourself to pick this game up. It's fantastic and a wonderful installment into the Halo series. However, number 4. My number 4. I honestly forgot all about this game until I saw it in an Angry Joe video. This game would have never got on this list if I hadn't realized it was on 2012, or had been released in 2012, mostly because I had almost completely forgotten about it because it was so early into the year. However, my number 4 is Mass Effect 3. That's right. Now you're probably thinking, what? The ending was terrible. Oh, fuck off. Seriously, I could care less about the ending at this point. Really, that's not even true. I would say the ending holds it back a little bit, and it kind of does. It really, really does. The ending hurt this game, and I can't deny that. It took your choices, and it just threw them across the ground like it didn't matter whatsoever. However, even with that said, even with the terrible ending, I kind of look at the game more as if it was for the journey and not the destination. That's the thing to keep in mind about this situation. This game, regardless of its terrible ending, provided some incredibly emotional, a very emotional journey with fantastic characters. Some of the best characters that we've ever seen in video games. BioWare once again provides great characters. They always do that, and they have once again did it with Mass Effect 3, with a great story, with great villains. This game is stellar in every stretch of the word. However, the only thing that holds it back was its lackluster ending that almost pissed on the entire series. But it kind of shows to you just how much fans, gamers, are incredibly in love with Mass Effect, that they would rise up in such an organized and meaningful fashion to demand a better ending from BioWare, who then delivered. Both sides of these people, both the developers and the consumers, care about this game, and it has been proven time and time again with necessary changes. BioWare did not have to make that change. To be honest, it looked like we were a bunch of whiny children. The cause was justified, but they really did not have to make that change, and because they did it, that makes them look like a really awesome developer, even more so than they usually are. However, as I said, because of that ending, it gets held back a little bit from the other games on this list. And I want you to say now, these following games on this list, and I say this even when we got to Halo 4, these last 5 games on this list, really, they could have all been at number 1. That's how good they are. But the problem is, one game has to get to number 1. So I'd recommend all of these games to you. Really, they are all great. However, with that said, let's move on to number 3. Dishonored. Dishonored was kind of that little small game that snuck up on me this year. I had heard about it being developed by Bethesda and the company behind Dark Messiah, Heroes of Might and Magic. However, with that said, I had completely forgotten about the game. I remember it, I was sometime in like October the 25th. I was just kind of chilling. And then I realized, wow, Dishonored is actually released in about 4 days. So, when I knew that, I of course went to get the game the second it was released, and there was kind of it felt like there was a lack of value for money there. The game is not very long. Some people beat it in 4 hours. I personally beat it in about 12 because I did everything there was potentially to be done. I mean, I went to every single area, explored every single little thing. Yeah, it's one of those games that you have to explore. However, the reason that it gets so high up on the list is because of its fantastic story writing and just basically all around action combat gameplay, or action stealth I should say. That's really what makes the game so good. The combat is just awesome. It doesn't feel like a I would say a cardboard hack and slashy, like in the style of Skyrim, where it feels like your swords are really just Nerf swords. No, it actually feels like a truly visceral combat, and that is a really good thing indeed. And also, you can almost the character's kind of relatable to as well. He doesn't say a word, but at the same time, you actually kind of feel for the experience he's going through. This game is fantastic, and the only thing that really I'd say was wrong with it was that there was, along the way, kind of a weakness in characters is really the best way to describe it, is that some of the characters that should have been expanded on really weren't all that much. And the reason I say that is you have awesome characters in the game, like Granny Rags, the Outsider. What was his other name? I forget his other name. It was the leader of the distillery. However, with that said, you have other characters like that get a little bit of face time, but really aren't expanded on all that much. Granny Rags got her face time at the end of the game, sure enough, but you didn't really know her story. Same with the Outsider, you were left to guess, and it almost felt like they were leaving it open for a sequel so that you could get more story from him, or even more open to a DLC, which it very well may be, considering that some DLC is going to involve Dowd and the Whalers. However, because of it though, it almost feels like there were some things left out that should have been added to make a more complete game. But with that said, even though this game was a little bit short, every single minute of this game I enjoyed. You were able to go into the game, do whatever the hell you wanted, approach the situation however you so pleased, and whichever way you did it, you were gonna have fun. This game, every single thing it did in terms of combat and gameplay was stellar, and approached correctly and done right. That's the best way of saying it. It was a fantastic game. However, let's move on to number 2. Far Cry 3. This game, again, was another one who just barely got on the list. I got the game for Christmas, and of course, you know, that was cutting it very close to the deadline. However, I've already beaten the game. That's how good the thing was. And everything about this game was fantastic in every stretch of the imagination. That's probably the best way I can sum it up. It was fantastic. It was a stellar game. The only thing that I would say that I disliked about it, and I say disliked very, very loosely, okay? I didn't really care all that much by the end of the day. The only thing that really kind of threw me off of it was the lack of difficulty. I played this game on the hardest difficulty setting for my first playthrough, and it really didn't feel hard. That's the thing. It was not a hard game. I often wondered to myself, am I playing this thing on normal and I just don't realize it? No, it's just the fact that the game has no difficulty to speak of whatsoever, and I feel that kind of held the game back a little bit, because you kind of feel like it should be, that survival aspect on the island should be there, when really it isn't. However, with that said, everything else about the game is stellar. The combat is stellar. The gunplay is stellar. The characters, oh my god, the characters are amazing. That's one way of putting it. The characters are the best characters I have seen in a video game in a very, very long time. Voss, the guy who got 18 minutes of screen time in total, only got 18 minutes. He is the best villain of 2012, hands down. The dude only got 18 minutes of screen time, but his voice actor was so wonderful at doing it. You know, he is the best villain of 2012. He is unpredictable, crazy, insane. And I think the other thing that I would have liked about this game is for them to delve further into this whole subject of insanity. And they really didn't. They stopped after they got to Voss just a little bit. And I wish they wouldn't have. I really also think Voss should have been at least the final villain. If not, he should have got more screen time. Or either way, Vulcan Hoyt should have. Either way, though, it doesn't matter, because every single moment of Far Cry that I played, I enjoyed. The stellar writing. The writing was just so good. It is some of the best writing we've seen of 2012, with the exception of number 1. However, with that said, what is my number 1 of 2012? I want you guys to know that I had a lot of soul-searching to do when I decided upon this game. For instance, this game could not really be described as a game because there isn't that much game to it. It is more of a interactive movie, I would say would be the best way to actually put it. However, Another thing to add is that it's even kind of a little bit buggy here and there. There are a little bit of broken save files, and some people lost their save files, and there's texture glitches, and it doesn't always work, and I couldn't even put the game into full screen without it freezing. But what is this game that is so good that even because of that, it made it all the way to #1? And you're probably thinking, well, if it's not really that much of a game, how can it be #1? I don't really know, but I think that I should choose the game that I feel gave me the most emotional journey out of 2012. The game that when I heard would release a new episode of, I eagerly anticipated of it. I actually had a little, like a little ritual I would do, or not, I wouldn't say a ritual, but a little tradition I would do every time I would hear the new episode had come out. I have a local diner here in my hometown, and they serve fantastic food. Every time I hear that a new episode's come out, I go down to the diner, grab my default meal, and I come up here and play the episode. I did that for every single episode, and it was a fantastic time because the episodes were just so good. I eagerly anticipated each new episode, each new installment, because at the end of the day, they were some of the best emotional journeys of story and character involvement and growth that we have seen in recent memory. So with that said, what was my #1 game of 2012? I think you already know, but it was The Walking Dead. Yeah, that's right. My top 1 favorite game of Walking Dead was some would argue, broken point and click. However, while I would agree that it is broken in some parts, it gave me the most emotional ride I have ever felt in a video game ever. Looking past the save files sometimes breaking, I honestly love Walking Dead to tears, and I can't wait for Season 2. The characters were great in every stretch of the imagination. They all growed, and you all had an emotional reaction to them. I'm not going to say you loved every character, because that's a lie. No, that's not how human beings work. There are people you are going to hate, and the game actually realized that. It was like, for once, in a zombie apocalypse, people are going to be stressed out, and you're going to hate some of these people you meet, and I did. There were people I met that I absolutely despised. Larry, Lily at some points, Duck, for God's sakes, Duck, I hated that kid up until the point that a bullet got put into him. What's another one? Oh, let's see, the St. John brothers. Kenny at some points, he was an asshat. Ben, I don't know why I didn't drop him to his death. Yeah. There are some characters that you will absolutely hate, absolutely despise, and there are some characters that you absolutely love, but that's the way of human nature. That's the way things work. That's the way characters and human beings are, and Telltale delivers it in spades. The story is great. You being the father figure as Lee, little Clementine, that is a wonderful dynamic, and we haven't seen it in video games I can't remember the last time ever, and because of that, it works. The voice acting is great. Whoever did Lee did a fantastic job, because he just feels like a normal human being. They all feel like normal people taken out of their day-to-day lives, with the exception of Lee, who are basically trying to survive and find their way in this war-torn hellhole, is the best way to describe it. Because of that, this game gets #1 on my list because it is the best game, the best writing, the best characters, and the best emotional journey that I have ever gone on. I don't normally tear up when it comes to video games. In fact, I never tear up when it comes to video games. But I guarantee you, by the end of Episode 5 of The Walking Dead, you will be shedding manly tears. No, actually, I don't want to say manly tears. Fuck that. That is disingenuous. You will not be shedding manly tears. You will be shedding genuine tears of sadness, but also happiness that the journey is over and that you finally got to see the end of their story, and now you want to know where it goes next with Season 2, and then you also realize that Telltale has signed an agreement to actually release a new season every year from the sounds of it. Even if that's not true, they're going to be bringing out a Season 2 because they have announced it. This is a fantastic game, and if you haven't picked it up yet, shame on you. Shame on you. You deserve to pick it up, and you deserve to enjoy an emotional journey and a fantastic story experience. Pick it up. You owe it to yourself. Now that I've gone through my entire list, normally I don't like doing top 10 lists because I feel it's just like random banter about games that people already know you enjoy, but hey, whatever, it brings in the ad revenue, I guess, so that's kind of cool. But one thing I do want to say about all these games is, one reason that I feel that top 10 lists sometimes, at some point, can sometimes be necessary. The reason I say that is because there are so many people, and I just kind of hate this when I hear this, is that there are so many people that are so content with just playing one game over and over and over again, and just playing that game. For a good example, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I've heard so many people say that they're a one-game kind of guy, and they go and play Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I can't help but scratch my head, because all I can think is, really, you are a gamer, but you only play one game. The whole term gamer suggests that you actually play more than one game, and I can't help but wonder why that you would find yourself playing just one game. There are so many wonderfully crafted video games that have been released for 2012, 2011, 2010, and I imagine 2013 soon to come. So, get out there, go play some fantastic video games, don't get yourself stuck in a rut, and enjoy that which is our hobby of gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Crazed as always. I hope you have had a fantastic 2012, a fantastic New Year's, and I will see you in 2013.